In your book, you talk about your perception of God, and it depends on your level of enlightenment or your level of presence.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really profound because, you know, we all have our perception of God, and so many people have so many broad spectrum of who God is or what God is, and yet I think that we are all incorrect to some degree. I think that there has to be a level of that enlightenment, that awareness, that presence.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that I do with people, depending on what medicine we're going to do will depend on their level of perception of how God is. And so what we're talking about for everybody out there, there's this map called the Map of Human Consciousness. It looks like a rainbow, Roy G. Biv, you know, red at the bottom. These are your root emotions and feelings, right? And so when you're stuck in guilt, blame, and shame, your perception on God is that it's punitive and punishing, and I did this because I deserve this or whatever. That's that base frequency of thought and feeling. The whole thing about God is showing us what happens when we get to the end of ourself. So when we talk about what is ego death, that surrender is about being able to go to the end of my rope and know that I can, you know, land in a feather pillow bed, as opposed to I'm going to go and get raped and berated and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we do that to ourselves based on our level of self-love. And then as we get that love in ourselves more and more, we can feel that God eternal life force within the body, as Terence McKenna said. And then once the more and more you are really centered into remembering the truth of who you are, your divinity, your amazing power, right? There's different levels of that. That'll get mixed in with your ego. And so you're constantly excavating things from a new perspective, right? You might have to go back to forgiving this situation from different levels of consciousness and God. And so like I see people all the time, for example, they can't forgive themselves. They'll ask God for forgiveness. They hold themselves separate from forgiveness because they don't know how to show compassion to themselves. It wasn't shown to them. Right? And so then maybe they'll get tested with something that just really fucking forces them to practice unconditional love. You know? And then once you practice that kind of unconditional love for somebody who hurt you so bad in your family or for yourself, then you can go ahead and show that to a stranger and maybe to the oligarchs who need for us to pray the fuck over them.
Oh boy, man, don't we? Don't we?
Right?